Hello, welcome back to Living on Jesus Street. I'm your host, Pringle Franklin, and we're in the third part of our series on centering prayer. Today, we're going to talk about the benefits to your mind, to your body, to your soul. And I have two experts here with me today, Dr. Ann Kulze, who is a nationally recognized expert on health and wellness, as well as a motivational speaker, and Father Nicholas Amato. You saw him earlier in our series in the first and second sessions. And Nicholas, you're not wearing your collar. What have you got on there?
It's a change of wardrobe. Actually, the proper clothing for a Roman Catholic priest is the collar and the black suit. Today, I'm wearing a gray hooded shirt because I'm an affiliate of Mepkin Trappist Abbey here in Moncks Corner, South Carolina. And this is what anybody who's an affiliate of the program of the monastery wears. So I'm just in the middle of 3 retreats right now, so I'm dressed accordingly.
Well, we're glad to see you looking monkish.
Yeah, I do have, it's fully monkish.
Let's see, very inspirational. And we are in the chapel at Mepkin that is dedicated to the retreat center. And if anyone out there would like to visit Mepkin Abbey and come on a retreat, I highly recommend it. Nicholas leads great retreats here. And you can always go on the website, the Mepkin Abbey website, and look and see what they have available. So to begin, I'm going to ask Dr. Ann, medically speaking, what are the benefits of sitting in silence with God?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me and
Thanks
giving
for
me
being
this
here.
opportunity and for what you're doing to spread the word on this remarkable, it's just incredible, this practice. So first, I'd like to talk about what we know in terms of documented health benefits from the process whereby we ultimately are trying to connect to God, which is the centering prayer. So I'd like to first talk about the benefits for the mind, and then we'll talk about benefits for the body. And it's actually quite astounding. So there are hundreds of published studies that have found that mindfulness-based activities, of which centering prayer is one. There are others, yoga, tai chi, other forms of meditation like Eastern meditation. We know that at the level of the mind, there are cognitive benefits to include increased focus, increased concentration, increased creative thinking, increased memory. At the mental and emotional level, we have studies documenting decreased depression, decreased anxiety, improved sleep, decreased stress.
That is a lot.
People may be wondering, how's that happening?
How's it possible? Yeah.
How's that happening? How does this practice of centering prayer lead to those mental, emotional, cognitive, and bodily benefits? Well, and it's really pretty simple. And the great news is when we sit and quiet our bodies and quiet our minds, and in the realm of centering prayer, we are focusing all of our attention, quieting our mind, focusing all of our attention on connection to God, connection to the divine. When we do that, there is a reduction in our sympathetic nervous system. It gets tamped down, right? It gets quiet. At the same time, our parasympathetic nervous system is activated. Anyway, so we have, with the parasympathetic nervous system, a reduction of stress, all of those benefits, with the biggest that I mentioned, but the biggest one is a decrease in inflammation.
No, that is amazing.
Really
that
important.
all
And
of that can
inflammation is a key
Wow.
driver of most all chronic diseases we now know.
Well, I can certainly attest that by practicing on a regular basis, I feel so good. And even when you first sit down and you kind of settle down and you've been stressed and you begin your deep breathing and you start to go into it, I didn't know a lot of this scientific stuff, but I relate to it. I feel it. You feel it on a deep level. Tell us about some of the fruits, the spiritual fruits, which you mention in your book, Living in
Right.
God.
There are 44 truths.
44 fruits
Right.
of the spirit or of awareness.
Right.
So
I started out in the early 70s with 20 minutes every day faithfully of centering prayer. I call it SIS, sitting in silence. And as I grew and continued to grow and started to realize benefits, I wanted more of this. And I really didn't know why I wanted more, but I felt more grounded. And I started, a lot of what you're talking about, the cognitive fruits, I started to realize. So over the course of the last probably 10 years, different friends and different groups would be saying, what happened to Nicholas? So they were independent of each other. So I thought, well, this is cause for a study of some kind. So I started to ask the groups independently of each other, tell me, when you say I've changed since 2008, what have you noticed? What have you noticed? So what they noticed was that I was more patient, less frenetic, more responsive than reactive. A big one was I listened better. Another big one was I had no preferences. So if I would go out, the guys say, and we wanted to go to a restaurant, where would we go? Chinese, Indian, Italian, American, and I'd be in there, slugging it out on where we're going to go. Honest to goodness, suddenly nothing was important. It didn't matter.
Wow.
And it wasn't complacency. It wasn't like, it wasn't that I didn't want to get involved and I didn't want to go anywhere. It was that nothing mattered. That's a big one.
I think what I hear you saying is that you have this inner contentedness, so that whether you get Chinese or you get Italian, your world does not depend on that.
Exactly. And one of my little maxims is, everything's important, and that takes care of the side of me that is a little crazy at times. So the phrase is, everything's important, but nothing matters. Yeah. And in the end, nothing matters. It's just the present moment in the presence. That's what matters. So once you're able to attend to the ego parts of yourself, namely your breathing to relaxation and your sacred word, the ego steps aside and you go into a place of being that is you, but it's a self you're not often in touch with because you're not often quiet, open, vulnerable, non-thinking. So one of the benefits is the joy of being who I really am in God. I mean, that's what it really is.
And who doesn't want that?
Oh my gosh.
Exactly.
That is the greatest thing. Well, now, Anne, you also practice centering prayer. Tell us about your
So
experience.
I have to, first of all, I was trained 5 years ago by Father Nicholas because I took part in, as a faculty member in his priest wellness retreats. And part of being a faculty member was that you had to be trained in this. And I was really totally unfamiliar prior to, so that was about 5 years ago. And I have been very, avidly and devotedly practicing this, and it has radically transformed my life, my quality of life, spiritually for me. That's really the goal here. And the other things we talk about for mind and body are just wonderful side effects. Think of it that way. But the true fruits are a stronger and more abiding relationship with God. But beyond that, it's that Scripture kind of comes alive in a way it didn't before, and that I am so much more aware, we've talked about this, of God in my life, angelic appearances and, God telling me things, and these amazing things happen that I know I was missing prior to, that now I know very, very clearly are, God's hand is there. And then on top of that, I have experienced the side effects. I'm more calm, I'm sleeping better, my mood is enhanced, I'm more even-keeled, I'm much less reactive, I have better self-control, I just don't worry about big things like I used to.
Yeah. It's
So,
absolutely
it's just profound.
stunning how
Profound.
much this changes you. And I also found, and I want to hear you all, see if you found this, that I appreciate nature so much more. And I have a heightened awareness of light and of the natural world. Have you found that?
I've had the light thing. We've talked about this. It's unbelievable. So your perception of what you see out there changes a little bit.
I find it interesting when I jog in the morning, and I live in the Amish area of southeastern Pennsylvania, so it's very countrified. And when I'm jogging, I make the intention by asking, what am I noticing? What am I noticing? And I notice everything becomes a revelation. So, for example, if I'm running up a hill and it's full of pine needles and I smell that wonderful smell of pine needles and the smoke from chimneys and wood fires and the cock crowing, I'm just transfixed. I mean, I just feel like I'm kind of running through and one with the nature I'm running through. The other thing, the benefit, spiritual benefit, by the way, when I turned 70 and got really into a half hour in the morning, half hour in the evening, consistently of sitting in silence, I have noticed over these 8 years that my thinking is clearer as I get older. That shouldn't be. What's that about?
That
My
never
thinking is
happens. Yeah,
never
right.
happens.
Where does that nobody? Yeah.
I'm more analytical. I've written 3 books. I'm just amazed. I feel like my brain is growing. Does the brain grow? I don't know.
No, exactly. So it can grow, and it does, but likely it's new connections. New connections, improved connections. So basically,
get
intellect
older?
and focused concentration is more so a power of how many brain connections you have versus how big your brain is.
And so spiritual practices can contribute to that.
Clearly.
You know,
And I mean, I'm thinking Ephesians 3:20, which
Yes,
you
yes.
love,
Right.
which, yeah, we can accomplish so much more if we just
He can do
join.
immeasurably more than we can hope for or imagine.
Yeah.
Join. I mean, that's the other thing that's happening.
That's a
You're
great
really not
example.
writing those books, right? You are,
Oh, I'm in my third
but God is.
Well,
Exactly.
Yes,
Because
right.
let me
You're-
say, the self that's writing it is not the ego self.
That's right.
It's the ego self. It's the deeper self.
Deeper self.
That rests in God. And actually,
And
I
you
don't
can
always
do
know what I'm
all sorts
writing.
of things.
The creativity, because I can be still. What I do is it kind of creates a space of creativity that I'm not generating.
Exactly.
I'm
And I've been there too. I've written books too. And I'm like, there's no way I could write this book. But I go to a place. It's hard to go there. It's hard to go there for me, but I can go to a place where like, I can't even believe it.
Yeah.
What comes out of me.
And that's when you can rejoice because you know that it really is that deep connection
Right.
that you have and that
Yeah.
it has taken root in you and it's growing and putting out fruit. And you did say, and you're opening that enhanced creativity is one of the byproducts of this.
Yeah. When people create things and have new insights and inventions, it's often not when they're thinking about it. It's when they're just at peace and at rest and they go,
Right.
bing.
Move, or sometimes in movement, sometimes with
Yeah.
exercise, falling to sleep, upon awakening, when you are more in that,
So,
tend to be connected to pure consciousness versus the egoic thinking mind.
yeah, it's
I
a
mean,
great place to hang out.
Yeah.
Your inner self, because it's not you. It's you in your connection with God. It's your deepest self.
Yeah.
It is your deepest self. And so one thing that I have been a little concerned about is that in our society today, there's so much noise. There's so many flashing lights. People are always on their phones that it's getting harder and harder to have a contemplative life or to say, we are saying you should do this daily for the maximum health benefits. The things that we're talking about should have a daily practice. So what happens, the reverse, if somebody, they're rarely quiet, they always have the TV on, or they're always texting, what's happening to that person?
So, this is very well documented. Rates of mental health issues they're continuing to go up. Anxiety, PTSD, depression, insomnia, and then on top of that we have, I just read a study, I'm devastated by it, that only 12.5% of Americans are metabolically healthy. 12.5%. And again, I mean, so much of that is driven by stress and freneticism and, the sense of time famine. And a lot of that is just like you're talking about, technology and, no one can focus, no one stops, people aren't communicating, people aren't connecting, there's loss of community,
exactly.
and on and on and on.
You can't just start to do this. It's very difficult because of the noise we're talking about. You've got to make choices that will contribute to an environment where you can do this. So I'm not saying you have to do this, but I don't take active calls on my cell phone. I'm always on buzz or vibrate. And even if it's vibrating, I don't go look at it because then it's going to take me from what I'm doing. And that person is going to think this is more important than they.
Yes.
And so I don't, that's just me. Second is, you talked about action and craziness. I don't go to action movies anymore. I'll go see.
Here.
I'll go
Don't
see
lie.
I'm
things
the same
like
way.
Lincoln. I'll go see things like The Post. Anything that's drama.
Right.
I just can't take it.
Overstimulating.
It's too much. It's an overstimulation.
It is overstimulation, and it does something to your soul. I will walk into a room and somebody in my family will be watching like Narcos or something. I can't even stay in the room.
In the same way. And I think that's another maybe hidden fruit of the practice is that you do become more content with a simpler life.
You do, yeah.
Amen.
You really do. And,
Yeah.
and even things like when you're cooking for your family or you're cleaning. I had to go and clean up for my mother recently. And I found that I was just so calm and almost meditative in the process of doing some unpleasant chores. It's just, the Spirit is just with you and things just flow.
You have to create the environment. It's not just taking time in silence. Father Michael, whom we saw in the other segment, we lived in a house together, and we were watching television and eating dinner. And we thought, this doesn't give us any opportunity to talk about our day. So now we don't watch television. We eat dinner at the table. We light 2 candles to kind of give it a sense of ritual.
That's wonderful.
And then after that, we may watch a half-hour masterpiece theater, which is kind of gentle and easygoing and, valuable. So every day has got a meal time that's just a designated conversation time and sharing time. And it's got some entertainment. But you've got to create the environment
Yes, you do.
to do this. You just can't do this alone.
Right.
And for families,
Oh.
it is so important to make that time. And what I've found, and I heard, Anne, you say a moment ago, time famine, that people feel like they are in a time famine. I had not heard that expression before, but it perfectly captures the way so many young mothers feel, and I'm sure many other people, where they're trying to take care of so many things and they don't have time. I found that if I give the first half hour of my day to quiet time with the Lord, to centering prayer, that the Lord multiplies my time, because then after that I'm really calm. I am thinking more clearly, and synchronicity just kind of flows. So,
No question about it.
yeah.
That's great. So it gives you time. It's kind of like physical exercise. We know it actually gives you time because your life unfolds more smoothly and you operate more smoothly. And then I just want to say that it doesn't take long. It didn't take long for me. It becomes literally irresistible to want to go to that place.
Yes, it does.
It
does.
literally becomes irresistible. I've told the story about, one big thing for me, and this is a tip that might really help you, is I started doing it at your suggestion with my coffee, because I'm going to have coffee every day. I begin my day with coffee, so it's like I'm going to sit down for my centering prayer when I have my coffee. And lo and behold, so I'd take a few sips, then I'd start, and I would allow myself periodically during the set to have a sip or two. Well, what I found very shortly is that I wouldn't want to break to get the sip, because I did not want to leave this place of extraordinary, the peace that passes all understanding.
So it's better than
It's
coffee.
unbelievable.
It's better than coffee.
No, it's like you're just so many, you can't, there's no words for it.
There's
no words for
To
it.
this day, I do take a cup of coffee, and I often leave it more than half full, 2/3 full, and cold, because I don't want to leave where I am.
Exactly.
To go to the coffee. The other thing, too, specifically.
Thank goodness for microwaves.
Yeah.
To heat it back up.
The wonderful thing about this is that you need to create a space where kind of a sacred space with an image or a statue or a cross or an icon. I usually use a candle, and I kind of vary the candle with the time of the year. So Christmas is going to be a you know, a Yankee candle that smells like Christmas, Thanksgiving, whatever. And during Lent, I use grape, so it feels like I'm, you know, Lent, more Lenty. Because for me, olfactory sense smell is just a wonderful thing. So the more senses I have, the more, the deeper I can go. So create a space, and you're going to find that space is going to lure you. You're going to be like Dr. Ann, take that coffee cup and go right to the space, light the candle, sit down, and you're home.
You are home. And I want to say to anybody, if you don't really have a relationship with God, and you're not sure, could this work for me? I've never been a church person, or I tried meditating and I couldn't sit still. This can work for you. This God makes himself available to anyone who seeks after him with a sincere heart. So the door is open. Well, thank you for a great conversation.
Thank you.
And I think we've answered a lot of questions.
Great being here. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Loved it. Thank you, Pringle.